Now it's time for Call the Floor with Elliott Schechter.
Elliott Schechter is the poker room manager for Rivers Casino in Schenectady, New York. He's here to rule on situations that come up in your home games. And this week, we're going to go a little further than your home game. Elliott, how you doing?
Doing very well. The rain is broken. The smoke is left. It's beautiful, and things are going pretty nice.
Well, we recorded last week's Call the Floor a little bit early, so I haven't really talked to you since the 4th. Did you have a good 4th of July?
Yes, absolutely. It was a great time. We had free concerts up here in the area. We had fireworks everywhere. Yeah, it was gorgeous.
Yeah, I bet up in that area, I bet fireworks time, it is beautiful. They've got some good ones, I'm sure.
Is.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, best fireworks are definitely from New York.
Yeah. Well, we have a little bit different of a Call the Floor this week because Vincent Ferrigno had posted this in the Ante Up fans Facebook page, and there was some controversy that happened in the World Series of Poker. So let me read the tweet that he posted in the thing, and then we'll discuss it from there. It says 50% of someone's stack is lost in a hand King Jack versus King 4 of diamonds, and that 4 of diamonds is important. The flop comes King XXX4. The hands are tabled, and another player says that they folded the 4 of diamonds pre-flop. So the deck is turned over and revealed that this is true. The floor comes over, rules that there was significant action and the chips were not returned. So an obvious wrong ruling, but I wanted to get you to elaborate on this a little bit.
Well, it's hard to call it obvious. I do believe the ruling is wrong. There are two rules that are incongruous to each other. Significant action is a pretty big rule and a big catch-all and a very important rule. Prevents people from cheating by letting the action go by them or playing angles. It does play a big part of the game. If two or more players put chips in the pot, I mean, the action's set. There's only so much you can do to reset. You can't give the pot away at that point. You can't undo a lot of things in that spot. It keeps the game moving. It keeps the game fair. It's an important rule. That being said, playing with the right cards is more important than significant action. If you're playing a 52-card game, you're not playing a short deck game or a 53-card game, such as single draw. If you're playing 52 cards and the wrong 52 are there, you're supposed to have the deuce all the way up to the ace of 4 different suits. If one of those cards is removed and substituted with a card already in the deck, like the 4 diamonds here, then yeah, the odds have changed for everybody. And they played the hand under those conditions, so the people who would rule significant action here are going to make that argument. That's fine. Make that argument. Doesn't make it correct. You're supposed to play with the right cards at the right time, all the time. This is one of those spots where the security and integrity of the game supersedes significant action. It's not a good look here to sell, well, you were playing like that for at least a dealer or two. You're going to keep playing like that. That hand's going to play. Tough luck. Wrong. It doesn't have to be that way and shouldn't be that way. It's a bad look. Recreate the action, give the chips back, take the deck out of play, apologize, give out some free drinks, maybe even a free lunch, and move on with life. I mean, you're not going to undo the previous hands. Nobody's going to ask for that. And if they do, you can very say, folks, nobody knew about it until now. But now that we know about it, we're going to correct it.
Right.
It's not okay to say, okay, now that we know about it, you know what, tough. You played under those conditions. In the future, we'll change it. No. I want to give kudos here to the gentleman who spoke up when he said he folded the 4 diamonds. Otherwise, well, he's cheating if he doesn't. But he's letting everybody know that, hey, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Let's get this done. He spoke up very correctly and very nicely. That was a very good thing to happen. Otherwise, they never would have found this, or at least until the disaster hits. What happens if it's two very big stacks all in, and then all of a sudden the flop comes ace of clubs, four diamonds, four diamonds?
Right.
Now we're in real trouble.
Right.
There was significant action before the flop. What are you going to do? Just shuffle up the cards without one of the fours of diamonds and then just run out of board?
Well, you brought up one point also, like, where did this four of diamonds come from?
Right. Was it from decks that were previously in play on that table? Did a dealer accidentally bring them with them when they brought new cards in? Did a player, heaven forbid, hold out from another table and then introduce it on this table? There's too many things that could have gone wrong here, and none of them are good. Some of them are accidental and unintentional, but some of them could be intentional. Either way, there's too many wrong things here. I mean, to just try to sweep this under the carpet and use the significant action catch-all is not appropriate here. You still have to run an investigation. You still have to figure out where this four of diamonds comes from. I mean, if the decks were set incorrectly and then spread and then obviously not inspected correctly before shuffling and dealing, obviously that's a training issue and a security issue. If somebody was holding out on another table, now we got a pretty major issue here, what was happening and how many other tables are being affected here. Either way, to not give the chips back here is wrong. I mean, this is not just a tradition. This is not a case of that's the way it's always been done. This is a case of fairness.
Right.
I mean, the odds, while the same for everybody, are different on that table than they are on every other table.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Yeah.
Everybody's supposed to be playing under the identical circumstances. Otherwise, a tournament is completely unfair. That's why we have rules like showing cards to your opponent that are enforced even though you're only against one other player in a pot. You're theoretically playing the other 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 players in the rest of the field. So again, rules are made for fairness to keep everybody playing under identical, ideal, and most importantly, fair conditions. And this goes against a lot of that. This is a bad result, and I'm fairly disappointed. I mean, the guys of the World Series are impressive. They know what they're doing. They run a very smooth event that's just overrun with bodies. It's an amazing undertaking, and they're to be admired and thanked for it. They dropped the ball on this one, and hopefully this was not the main event. But even so, I mean, none of these events are inexpensive. Even the $400 Gladiators is still an amazing undertaking, and a lot of people had multiple buy-ins in. So
right,
none of these events are cheap by regular standards. The average bracelet event is over $1,000, and $1,500 will get you into almost every bracelet event except for the occasional 50 or 5 or 10. But yeah, I mean, these are expensive tournaments, and people are supposed to get what they pay for. And you're compounding that with, let's face it, some dealers that are not experienced and trained enough based on what the average person is buying into a tournament for.
Right.
And that's not the World Series fault. Let me make that very clear. The demand for dealers around the country, especially in the summer during the World Series when 7 casinos are running major events simultaneously, even in years when unemployment is high and people are available, it's still a struggle to find dealers to fill all these positions.
Right.
We're now obviously in a booming employment time. Unemployment is obviously, by any measured standard, is at record lows. There are job openings for poker dealers in a lot of places, and certainly in places where it's not 113 degrees every day. So, yeah, finding a lot of dealers to fill thousands of tables. The thousands of tables at the World Series, that accounts for a significant percentage of the poker dealers employed in the industry. So again, this is not entirely their fault. It's somewhat their fault. I can't let them off the hook completely. I mean, training your team and keeping them refreshed on procedures and rules is certainly the responsibility of the person holding the event and hosting the game.
Right. And to your point earlier, money aside, and that is an important thing, but a lot of people, this is, especially this year, this is their first experience with the World Series of Poker, and you don't want it to be soured with something that is not technically right? You want everything to run as sound, and there's going to be mistakes. That's not what I mean, but you, something of this magnitude, you don't want that to be something that sours their whole World Series experience.
Right.
So.
You don't want to make a decision for expediency. You don't want to just move the game along, but leaving everybody turned off and with a bad taste in their mouth.
Right.
You're absolutely correct. And this does that. You would, by giving the chips back, yes, you've slowed down the tournament for that table, but you've made everybody happy. And granted, I mean, a lot of calls at the table for me and my colleagues are judgment calls that, hey, we're going to make calls that are just going to get everybody hating us. It happens. But this is one of those times where you could have made a call that was popularly accepted, but also correct according to the rules that are in play for almost all of these games.
Right.
You can't go wrong being too safe and too secure in a lot of spots. This is one of those spots. There's a lot of money on the line. They're not running shuffle machines on these tables, which I'm still scratching my head over. I know there may not be enough shuffle machines in existence to place one on almost every table or every table at the World Series. But theoretically, there is and should be. It's going to cost approximately $1.5 to $2 million tops to have shuffle machines on every single table at the World Series. The current second-generation shuffle machine from the provider and vendor of choice will count the cards and tell you exactly which cards are in the deck at all times. So it reads and identifies 52 different cards. It can be set for different brands, so it's adaptable to all the different brands that are in play across the country and across the world. It can be adaptable for the size of the card. It can be adaptable for RFID cards or plain cards. The only thing it can't tell is if you've got too many of one colored deck and not enough of the same color deck. So as long as it's got 52 of the right cards, it thinks it could be 7 different colors. It doesn't know. As long as the 52 cards that are supposed to be there are there, it'll read that. So again, that's usually good enough.
Right.
I mean, when you're scrambling or shuffling up or putting a deck together, you're going to realize with different backs of cards are on the table. But once the cards are shuffled and scrambled, it's very hard to tell, even when you turn the deck face up. And unless you start looking for a specific card, you're not going to find 2 cards alike. It's a challenge for most people. Most people are in a rush, too, as you should be. The players are on the clock.
Right.
But the World Series itself, not counting their extra revenue from food and beverage, from the hotel, from table games, from slots, from show tickets, from parking fees. The World Series itself generates somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 to 50 million in gross poker revenue. You're looking at 1.5 to 2 million tops for shuffle machines on every table. At some point, it's a cost of doing business. I mean, it's not like the World Series is gonna be caught without players if they raise their rake on some of these tournaments. People are still going to play. It's the World Series. But yeah, there should have been shuffle machines on many of these tables. You got to put the money somewhere. If you're not going to invest in training, refreshing, then at least some of that money needs to be earmarked towards better security measures. Hey, I mean, accountants will tell you this is all dollars that could easily drop to our bottom line. I get that. That's fine. It's a business. Make the money. But
absolutely,
you have a duty to maintain integrity also. And this decision in this spot did not maintain the integrity of that tournament.
Well, there you go. I mean, I thought it would be a great idea to get your thoughts on that. I appreciate your perspective, and there you go. I don't know what more we could say about it. You know, it's a shame that it happened, but yeah. I know Alan Kessler has taken this up the chain too, so
well, he should. This is one of those battle's worth fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, very good. Elliott, thank you again for breaking that down, and we'll talk again next week.
You're very welcome. Talk soon.
All right.
Thanks, Joe.